On Target Institute presents a teaching from the Men on Target small group curriculum. Now with today's session, On Target founder Vince D'Acchioli.
Hello men, how you doing? Welcome to Men on Target and the On Target curriculum and the introductory session for our Module 5. This is a very, very important thing that we do with all of our modules. We kind of introduce the ideas that we're going to be covering in the next 8 teaching sessions and give you an opportunity to kind of write them down and ask yourself the question of these sessions that are coming up, which are the ones that I really think I need help with. And as I close this session, I'll remind you of this. Rate them maybe on a scale of 1 to 5 and start praying, Lord, prepare my heart today for what you're going to reveal to me in these sessions that are coming up around these important key areas of my life. I want to remind you again to go to otm.co and download the notes for these sessions. Very, very important. We're going to be covering what we're going to be dealing with in sessions 33 through 40. And here's what we're going to cover. In the first couple of sessions, my friend Craig Glass from Peregrine Ministries is going to join us, and he's going to talk about a man and his legacy. Craig has developed a powerful teaching about legacy that I believe you're really going to enjoy, and you're going to get a lot from his teaching. Then I'm going to come back and talk about a man and his extended family. We've been talking about a man and his wife and a man and his children. And now we're going to be talking about a man and his extended family, beginning with our moms and dads and the implications that can happen with those relationships, as well as moving it out to family members that are not necessarily that close, that can really cause a lot of dysfunction and disunity within the family context and cause some problems. We'll get into that. Then we're going to talk about a man and his friends. That I'm really excited about unpacking that teaching for you, and we'll talk a little bit more about it as we move through the session here. And then we're going to close with 4 sessions, 2 on a man and his time, and then finally 2 on a man and his money. We're going to look at those issues as we move through these modules. Now, in Proverbs 13:22, it says, a good life gets passed on to the children. The idea that we pass on a legacy to our family and to our children. Guys, a legacy's been passed on to you and I, and sometimes we don't recognize it, we don't understand it until the chips are down and we find ourselves behaving in ways that even surprise us. Oftentimes that comes from what's been passed on to us by our earthly moms and dads. And Craig will be teaching us that we receive an inheritance. There's no doubt about that. We receive, and some of it is good and some of it is not so good. The other truth is that we pass on a legacy. We pass on some of those things to our own children, and transformation really determines our legacy. And by that he means the things that happen and will happen in our lives really determine the legacy that we pass on. Our legacy is transformed by these things: taking on the attitude of Jesus, pursuing community with other men. These are 2 important things that he will unpack during those sessions. Now, the next session that I'm going to be dealing with, a man and his extended family. I sometimes like the title this, In-Laws or Outlaws, because depending upon what goes on in your family, it can be viewed either way. I believe one of the biggest problems we face in our relationship with God and our spouse comes from unresolved family relationships. And the Bible is calling us to leave and cleave. We know that. But sometimes what happens, guys, is we leave our families, our moms and dads, physically, but not emotionally. And it can cause no shortage of problems in a marriage relationship if we don't know how to do that. Genesis is where you find it. That is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united or cleave to his wife, and they become one flesh. Then in session 36, I'm going to be talking to you about a man and his friends. I love this teaching. The Lord gave me some special things to share with you guys that I can't wait to unpack. And Proverbs 18:24 says, "A man of many companions may come to ruin, but there is a friend who sticks closer than a brother." And what does that friend look like? We're going to be unpacking what I call the friend test, because we're going to show you Bible verses that correspond to all of these ideas. But a true friend is a friend who makes a commitment to you. Also, a true friend is someone who is willing to correct you. They're willing to get in your face and help you understand perhaps the error of your ways. A true friend, a good friend, is someone who is an encourager. They will bring encouragement to you. And they're also someone who will protect you. They'll take the bullet for you. They'll be there if you're in trouble. And then finally, they will also bring strength to you. They will help you to grow and become strong. And in this friend test, we're going to be asking you to evaluate, how are you doing as a friend to your friends? How do you fare in those areas? And how would you rate your friends in terms of them bringing that to the table in your relationship with them? And then sessions 37 and 38 will deal with a man and his time, parts 1 and 2. And this is really, really important. We're going to talk about the differences between efficiency and effectiveness. And I'm going to be telling you some stories out of my own life about how often I have observed in others, have the ability to be very efficient in the things that we do, but not necessarily very effective. And what I mean by that is you can be doing things very efficiently, but they may not be the right things. And in that case, you're not very effective. And we're going to talk about the enemy plan. In the whole idea of time management, the enemy wants you to live in an unordered way. So he provides all the distractions, all the things that take us off course, because the enemy knows that an unordered people will lead to an unordered world, and that the ultimate prize for him is now we have a world where people cannot find God. I don't have the time. I'm so bound up in all of the things around me that are distracting me and that are taking me off course that it's very, very hard to find the time. What the solution, if you look at Ephesians 5:15-17, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil. We're going to unpack 3 things. Live wisely, make good use of your time, and know the Lord's will. 3 important keys to a strategy for living that we're going to be talking to you about in these powerful, powerful sessions. And then we're going to finish all this by talking about a man and his money. That'll also be in 2 parts. Financial difficulties, the number 1 cause of marriage failure. In every study we've looked at and reviewed, this has been the case. It is really important for us to understand this. In part 1, we're going to talk about symptoms of financial bondage, and there are lots of them. Ecclesiastes 5:10, it says, "The sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether they eat little or much. But as for the rich, their abundance permits them no sleep." That's been my experience. I've found people that don't have any money that are at peace, and I've found people oftentimes that are very wealthy, and they just don't seem to have any peace. They just keep wanting to consume. They keep wanting to have more and more and more. So we're going to talk about some real keys to financial bondage. There are 10 of them, and you're going to be asked to evaluate how you're doing in those areas. And I want to encourage you right now to be praying about this, because I also encourage the men to take this information and sit down, if you're married, with your spouse and together evaluate how you might be doing in this very, very important area of having the right attitude and the right management of your finances. Paul says in Philippians 4:12, because in the next session, in dealing with financial freedom, we're also going to talk about the 10 steps to financial freedom. It says, "I know what it is," Paul says, "to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want." Paul's my hero, and I don't know about you, but I desire to be like Paul. I want to learn to be content no matter my circumstances. And so when you start to see the symptoms of financial bondage and the keys to financial freedom, I think it's really going to help you determine the areas in your life where you maybe need to do some adjusting. Now, what's the life application for this session? I want to encourage you to start praying about these issues we're going to be dealing with. Because in this module, we're going to deal with a man and his legacy. We're going to be dealing with a man and his friends. And you can be praying about, Lord, what is it that you would want to teach me in the area of legacy? What is it that you want me to do? I just had that experience in my own life, guys. I'm getting up there in age now, and I'm saying, Lord, what is it that you want me to leave behind starting now? Help me understand, what have you put into me that you want me to develop and pass on to my children and my grandchildren and to perhaps others? Help me with that. Be praying that way. What about a man and his friends? Pray, Lord, do I have the right friends in my life? Are there the friends that are going to build me up and live up to those 5 different issues we're going to be talking about? Pray about that. And pray the Lord would teach you when you get to these sessions. And then a man and his time. We're going to be talking about a man and his time and how I spend my time. We're going to be talking about a strategy for living. Lord, help me understand. Am I a man who tends to be more form over substance? Am I a man who tends to be so involved that it's all about my activity and not whether or not there's any results that are coming from my activity? Am I organized in the way I approach my life? And do I have a real good strategy for living? Because there's a lot of stuff we're going to talk about with a man and his time. And so pray about that. Lord, visit me during these important sessions on time management. And then finally, a man and his money. This is really, really critical. Now, the questions are, quickly, which of the areas above are you most needing help in? And how will you prepare for this important module? God bless you in your time of discussion. And until next time, don't forget about it.